never stops, and that's the way I like it. Wildman Willie here, getting ready to do the struts and sway bar links on a Highlander. This is just the beginnings of my adventures on this car. This gives me an opportunity to replace what I am 100% sure is no good, like that right there, while a better chance to inspect the rest, like this Lincoln CV axle. It doesn't leak, it leaks at the axle seal. I have determined, however, that CV axle needs to be replaced. I do have the seal, but I'm going to leave that alone because I think it's going to fall out, and we'll be chasing a CV axle today if I snatch that. That being said, the beginning. So, we've got FCS complete strut assemblies. We got Suspensia sway bar links. Those have proven to be pretty good so far. And AC Delco sway bar link bushings. That will make the back end of this thing a whole lot more compliant. Make it do what it's supposed to do way better. So we'll get started on that. They're going to need rear brakes sooner than later. Heck, all this needs to go, really. We'll talk to them about it a chunk at a time. Right now we're going to do this top half. No, it's not a wormhole, folks. It's a strut mount hole. That's where that lives. I'm going to dust a lot of that off pretty good for the client. So, you see the strut is out. Took loose all my stuff. When you're doing this one, remove this from here. You want to get that wheel speed sensor wire away from this assembly when you're trying to wrestle that strut out. I always remove just the lower sway bar bolt and remove the strut and sway bar as an assembly. Note where I got my caliper tucked where it's good and safe. So everything's out of the way. That made removal and installation easy. Sometimes it's no fun getting the sway bar back in, but we can deal with that when it's back on the ground if necessary. I did that. It'd be okay. Didn't hang on the line, hit the ground, just fine. So, to take a look at our new components versus the old tired sway bar link assembly, like no resistance in that. Feels much better. That's the Suspensia. These are inexpensive. They're very close to an OE part. Very good for inexpensive. I can get more expensive, but again, this is FCS and Suspensia. So this is my damn good for the money, economy grade, replace all the struts on your car and make it good again kit. Gabriel's cost over twice as much money. How much better are they today? Questionable. How much better are they in the far future? Probably a lot. These are 3 to 5 year parts for certain. They could be better than that, but this will restore it for today to make it hell better than this thing that's been there for 20 years. So let's stick that back up in there and get it done. Look at that. Willie Jenkins was here. Like today. Everything's all marked up. We got a nice new strut up in there. Very happy. Sway bar links went together no problem. I'm going to do the sway bar bushings, but I think I'm going to set it on the ground to do that. Everything came apart real good. It was a little tight on some of them nuts getting it out, but nothing I couldn't break loose. So that's nice and pretty. Up top, they actually still had the little cap, so I signed it. Marked good and tight. So this one's ready to sit this side on the ground. Put the wheel on it. I'm going to go take me a little break for just a minute, and I'm going to do the other side. Should have it done by 3 o'clock or so at this rate. Another dead old strut headed to the recycling center, and a nice new one and sway bar link ready to go in. This FCF stuff, it's great for what it is. Fits well, installs well, confident stuff. I've had bigger brand names that have given me more problems. Got it all clear up here, ready to install. Got it all clear down here, ready to install. I've gone ahead and brushed everything down. Again, you see where I prop my caliper when I do this job. So, when you go through this, first thing you want to do is lower sway bar end link bolt. And you may have to mash the shit out of the stub of that with a pair of pliers if they didn't give it a key end or if it's rusted out. But you pull that, and then you don't have to remove the sway bar from the strut itself, or the sway bar link from the strut itself, which is one less crusty bastard bolt to deal with. All right, get everything stripped off. Make sure you have all of it and tucked to the side, because you don't want this strut to kick out when you're trying to pull it out and get hung up in any of that mess. Break loose your top bolts, but leave them in place. Break loose your bottom bolts, leave them in place. Remove top bolts, remove bottom bolts. Installation is obverse of removal. We'll give it a little more detailed on that. It's nice and sunny out here. Getting good and nasty. Cut myself pretty good somehow. The life of a Hollywood stuntman. Another bunch of bolts tightened down and tattooed. got the strut installed and the sway bar link. Everything went real good on this side too. You can see all my where I left it marks. That's the way I do it. That green stick's good. So that's all done. Up next is these sway bar bushings. I believe the easy way to do this is to have the car sitting pretty level and to pop those loose. We'll find out if I'm an idiot or not, but that's how I intend to do it. With the sway bars, well, not in a bind without anything drooping. Hopefully that'll be the right answer. Shouldn't be very difficult at all to do that. And then I can button up the beast and send it on its way. I am going to recommend to the customer both links, that link, CV axles, both sides rear, pads, rotors, caliper seems okay, might get them too. Then the butt end of this car will be essentially done. We're going to hold off on that section initially though, because there's some noises from the front. I want to fix what's really wrong before I dig into too much fine tuning of the situation and nuisance noises. Anyway, together cheddar, here we go. Would you look at that? We even got the rear ride height correct. Eager to do the front, make it look the same. Car is very happy with that. We have nothing less than a dramatic improvement in ride quality. Here's those sway bar bushings, and yes, when you go to do those, do this with the wheels on the ground and there's no tension in any of it. You can just do it. Nothing to it at all. Got the other one on this side. Done, marked up, so that's happy. All those links need to go. Every CV axle on this car needs to go. And a similar procedure to what was performed on the rear is in order up here on the front. Them struts ain't any better. I know you can't really see that, but I think that the customer will be very happy with how this feels. It's a big difference right away. So let's get them down here, get this one cleared, get on to the next one. 2 degrees now, on the way to 92 degrees. The summer of endless sun. It's like a light switch out here in Eugene, folks. Either it's wet or it's not. Today we got the Hybrid Highlander back on the deck, and we're doing the front top suspension. So we got new struts by FCS, Suspensia sway bar links, Suspensia tie rod ends. I think that's what's in there, unless he double ordered. We're about to find out. Interesting. And Moog sway bar bushings. We did the front a week or two ago. Oh, maybe it was less. We've been doing so much, it could have been the other day. Let's make we did the rear the other day. We're gonna do the front today and make that all happy. Let's get this thing riding back like it's supposed to. There's more to do on the undercar. This will help me isolate, and just like with the back, I'll be able to get a better look at what's right now, what should be, what you could ignore, that kind of thing. But let's get to spinning these bolts. These wrenches don't turn themselves. For a little demonstration of my techniques for removing sway bar links, which this is how I recommend you go about doing the struts on most Toyota products and most other products too. This information pertains to, well, just about any of them. So you're removing the strut and you got a sway bar link. Don't even bother with this. Leave that right there. It can come out with the assembly. I like to come down to the bottom and bite the shaft or whatever retainer there is if there's not a hex. Now, if it has a hex, I want to put a wrench on it that fits. But in this case, it's a smooth bore collar. I like to mash that into place with a pair of locking needle nose pliers until my hand strength just about ain't enough. And I like to let that impact against another part of the car, in this case, this tie rod end. Now, just to make things easy, I went ahead and heated up the end of this nut with my torch here, just like that, before I got started, which was very much necessary to make this one spin. They're not always stuck like that, but these are relatively asinine usually. So with this bracing against that, I should be able to one-hand it out the rest of the way. But it's really helpful. And yes, I had to put way more torque on that before, folks. I did. I sure did. So, but the technique remains the same. So there's that nut out. And we can unlock our pliers. And I'll have to do some finagling to get that out of the end there. However, that's the easy way. So I'm going to pop that out. And then I got these 2 bolts to deal with. And then I got the top of the strut mount to deal with. But that's really all. Always take the time to make sure that your lines are up out of the way. I may pull this caliper off just to have this not be in the swing zone, because when this bad boy comes out, especially if I drop it and don't have this released yet, it's going to want to kick to one side or the other from the spring pressure. So I just want to make sure my lines and my vehicle stability control, my wheel speed sensor wires are out of the way really well. But hopefully that helps you out when you got to do them. Don't be afraid to add a little heat. You don't have to roast the nut long. Just get it hot where you wouldn't want to touch it, where it's scalding, and break her loose. Don't be afraid of the vise, and don't be afraid of a closed end to help you get that done. If all else fails, we got hammers and such, but this time heat and persistence was the answer. Successfully liberated the passenger side strut from the situation. About to put on my mask and knock a bunch of this dirt off. Another handy, I did take all those lines and make them where they were mobile, and that was a good thing. If that sway bar link is still under that spring pressure, which it will be with one side of the car off the ground, you got to wiggle and finagle that thing out of there, and it wants to kick the strut into all this and put this in a weird angle. Know that before you start. Take everything down so it doesn't have anything to wreck into. Another handy trick, you can take your lug studs and put them to a wrench to the ground like that, so that your CV axle stays in somewhat of a natural position and doesn't want to kick over. This can still move if I touch it, okay? It's not that damn secure, but it's got something other than just swinging in the wind, destroying what's left of this old CV axle, which I certainly want to replace in the near future. It's on the list, but I don't have it in my hand, so let's not murder that. Also on the list for the near future, we're going to do these lower control arms and the CV axles and hubs all at the same time with that. Up top, got a little cleanup to do. Factory strut braces off. Some people say them don't do nothing. I couldn't foresee Toyota and Oldsmobile installing them if they had zero purpose. 1 liter distance worth of strut off the car, an FCS beside it. Got my Suspensia sway bar links. So let's get that propped up in there and get on with the day. We were starting to get a little shade here, but the air temperature is going up while we get it. Side 1 is complete, marked up on the bottom. You can see my date code. If anybody won't sign their work, did they do it right? Marked all my bolts for tight, everything that I adjusted or removed in this situation. That's only after triple check. Do mark all that. I have not marked up the top side yet, as I've got to do the other side and get the strut tower brace back on before I final tight the top nuts. They're in good enough to lower the car and do the job. So that's going to make a huge difference here. It's time for a brief intermission for me to cool off, and then we'll knock out the rest. Well, that was a son of a bitch sway bar link if I ever saw one. Folks, get a Benzomatic. Without heat on this situation, I'd still be turning, and hell, that took me forever as it was. You got no room to twist or apply torque. It's very hard to get something with some leverage in that hole. So, like a quarter bite at a time, get her cherrying hot, get her pinched in, get her spinning, clung, clung, clung. But that's what that takes sometimes. Now I should be freed up to get the rest out. Let me finish up. What a long battle in the hot sun, but there's one dated, marked, everything marked. So that's under the car. All that leaves for me is to reinstall the tire, put the car back on the ground, and then I need to properly install the strut brace. I just mocked it up to make sure we wouldn't have problems getting it past the bolt heads. But I need to remove those 2 nuts, put this on there. I'm going to wipe it down so it's pretty, and then do a final tighten mark on my top bolts. And this one will be ready to hit the road. Let's get it there. What a day, what a day. That one about wore me out. Look how gross I am. But I got it all done. Proof is in the pudding. Check out my date marks and my bolt marks. Sway bars back on there nice. Look at the difference in the ride height. I'll have to do a before and after comparison on that. It's sitting dramatically higher. Whole car feels much, much, much better. There is more undercar to do on this car, and we're going to do the rest. We got a round 3 and a round 4 coming up. But round 2 is done, and the proof is in the pudding. You can sure as hell feel it. Woo! It's been a long one. I'm ready to go clean up a little bit and get this delivered and be done for the day.